Alright, hello. Welcome to Hylics. Sorry if this is a little rough. During the submission period that I'm recording this video for, I am sick. But I wanted to get the run done because this run is super cool. Hylics is a recreational program with light RPG elements, as it's called. So it's very focused on being weird first and the game second, but it's still a really fun run. It's made in RPG Maker, so it's a pretty standard turn-based combat. Time starts when we hit start on the title screen, which is right here. And when we start, we're on this island. This is not our main character. This is kind of the storyteller. We're going to spend some time on this island, and then we're going to have a cutscene. And then at the end of this cutscene, we will have to hit all the levers on the act screen, which on Act 1, there's just one lever, and then we start playing as Wayne. Wayne believes it is his destiny to defeat the evil Moon Lord Gibby, and who are we to stop him? Because, you know, I like defeating evil Moon Lords. So this game is pretty cryptic, and we're not really given any direction on where to go, but since obviously I know the speedrun, I know everything we want to do. First off, we want to hit this crystal. That is part of the fast travel system in this game, is hitting the crystals. There is a place you can go where you can warp to any crystal you want, and we'll talk about that a little bit, because this game actually has a really interesting mechanic when it comes to its fast travel and buffing your characters up. And speaking of buffing your characters up, we need to do that, like, immediately, because, as you see, when I go right up here, there's this building. This building actually has the first boss, and if we wanted to, we could walk into that boss fight right now, but we are nowhere near strong enough to fight it, so we need to get some items, some gear, some new party members, too. I'm going to go to this guy on the overworld. This is the creature. He's an optional mini-boss, but I don't actually want to fight him. What I want to do is, instead, his, like, little screen with his fight has 4 chests on it that all have items called Dudoplasm. Dudoplasm is a full restore to Flesh, which is your max HP, and Will, which is your max MP. So, there's a point in the run where we're going to do 2 boss fights in a row. And we will use those to heal in between the fights. But we finally made it to this terminal here. I used the warp in the little, like, lab area to go to the recolored world, which was, like, this alternate dimension type thing. And so I used that terminal to go back to the standard world to make it to this house here. First thing to do in this house is go to the basement, as there is magic gauntlets, which are a really good piece of gear. And then we're going to go in the house itself to grab 2 things. One, our first party member of the run, or our first new party member of the run, Somsnosa, as well as the first TV of the run, which gives us Bubbles. Bubbles is a skill that pretty much guaranteed poisons whoever you target, so it's really strong. For, like, really high HP bosses, we just kind of tear through them with poison. We're going to put the magic gauntlets onto Somsnosa as we die, and get this very fun death animation. And then we are going to warp back to Wayne's house. The important thing about this game is when you watch a TV, every character that's currently in your party learns the skill. This was changed in Hylics 2, which is another game I've run before, to where if you learn a skill, every character will have it, even if they're not in your party yet when you learn it. But in this game, that's not the case. So we actually need to, although we could go get the next skill we're getting first, which is really important, if we did this skill first, we wouldn't have Somsnosa, so Somsnosa wouldn't learn it. And it's really important that, like, all our characters have this skill that can have it this early in the game. So on top of the mountain in the center of town, both the town and the mountain names are randomly generated, by the way, Duzmol, an architect, is looking for a paper cup. He has a hole of infinite paper cups in his house, so we're going to take a few of them for later because they can help us increase our max will, our max MP. We're going to add them to our party, and then we are going to learn Space Shurikens. Space Shurikens is a really strong attacking move that is also priority, so it will always move first regardless of speed stat, which is really strong in this game because we're not going to be getting a lot of gear. So the ability to do damage without having to worry about getting hit first is really nice. We're going to fight this enemy, the Flesh Tash, and we're going to attack it when it has its counterattack stance up so that we can die as fast as possible in that fight. because we want to go back to the afterlife. I haven't talked much about the afterlife. We're also going to get another TV here. This is Mystic Meat. It acts as a status effect shield, so that's really nice. I didn't mean to run into this guy. Should be an easy escape. Yep. The afterlife. Yeah, so the afterlife is where you go when you die. And it's one of the major places you can go to buff your characters and also fast travel. So the crystals I'm hitting, the afterlife is where I use them to go different places. And there's also a part of the afterlife that with a really good piece of gear that only is accessible once we die 3 times. So the first 2 intentional deaths not only acted as warps, but also after this boss fight we're going to die as a death warp, and that's going to let us get that really good piece of gear. But first we have to do this boss fight. Well, we're still on 1 HP, so I'm going to drop a save in case it does not go well. This is Horrid Projection. So what we're going to do here is Wayne has a skill called Hypno Sigils, which did not hit the guard. Hypno Sigils is a 70% chance for an opponent to fall asleep, and it hits all enemies. So there we go. It just hit both the guard and the projection here. The reason why sleep is really good in this game is because a character or an enemy won't attack at all when you wake them up by hitting them. If you attack a sleeping enemy, it wakes them up, but they won't move that turn. So we use that in this fight to get 2 full rounds of attacks off before the projection can move once it falls asleep, and it kills us without dealing any damage, which is good because we're at 1 HP, and that also makes the death warp here really easy. So now, this is our last death. This is our last intentional death of the run. We can now go to this bottom right section here, and we can grab the Bestial Axe, as well as use a water cooler to buff our max will. So the Bestial Axe is the gear I was mentioning that's like really strong, and we're going to equip that to Dusmoln, give Wayne the default weapon of the Dusmoln so that he can do slightly more damage, and then we are going to move forward. By defeating the Horrid Projection, we've opened a gate on this island. Usually this gate down here would be closed, but since we beat the projection, it's now open, and we can take the boat all the way out here to this long path that will lead into one of the more annoying parts of the run here. So this is the graveyard. I'm gonna drop a save here just in case something goes horribly wrong, but the graveyard, there are 7 graves with switches under them, and my goal is to find all those graves, hit all the switches, and then that opens a door in the middle. We have to be really careful in the graveyard, though, because there are a lot of enemies, both in and out of the graves, that, although we can run from pretty much anything in this area, game permitting, it's really annoying to encounter them. Because something I haven't really talked about is that the encounters in this game are really mean. You might see it here. No, I got out, thankfully. But you don't have any sort of invincibility or, like, mercy time or anything like that in between encounters in this game, which means if an enemy's movement on the overworld is mean, they can kind of just like push you into a wall and you will be stuck forced encountering them forever, which can happen here. Thankfully, I got really nice luck with the ghosts here, so that shouldn't be happening to me, because the last 2 graves I need to hit are both really non-problems. This last grave does have 2 enemies inside of it that can change up the way I navigate this one, because, like, depending on how the enemies in that grave move, you can either choose to try and go over the top, which is slightly faster, or go under and around the switch like I did there. But that puts us into this cave here. This cave has a lot of enemies that move in cycles, so there's not much to this cave. For the next minute or so of the run, we're not doing much, so the graveyard is a good point for donations, but also so is this cave. We will be getting a second, or I believe that's the last, no, that's the second water cooler we're using, so we still have 1 more paper cup. But what makes this cave, the only annoying part of this cave that isn't kind of like predetermined cycles is this set of enemies right here, where this green guy can get in the way, Yeah, you can see he's causing a problem right now, and I'm, like, trying to move down. But now, yeah, like, I'm, like, halfway through moving down to the next tile, and this guy's still in the way. He's really frustrating. Thankfully, you can pretty much always run from the green guy. That's actually not true of, like, the pink dude. Or, like, the other dude in that scenario, so... Thankfully, the other dude is nice, and usually they'll stop moving, or you can get good luck and just move around them. Regardless, this part of the cave isn't bad at all. It's just... get through that pathway, and then... we have another one of these cutscenes. So we just wait here for the dialogue to start. And what's interesting is actually, we're going to be starting Act 3 right now. We didn't really do any big skip. We just kind of... The part of the game that is considered Act 2 is just kind of... You don't have to do it if you know where you're going. So... we don't do it. So we take the airship that we get at the start of Act 3 to this little house in the middle of nowhere. I'm going to drop a save because we have a fight against Pongorma. Pongorma is a pretty annoying fight because we have more guards, which means that's another chance that an enemy won't fall asleep. Thankfully, we got all 3 to fall asleep. So we are going to poison Pongorma with bubbles while we defeat the 2 guards here. And then just like the Horde projection fight, we are going to just slam attacks into Pongorma until he dies. And as a result, Pongorma will actually join our party. So now we have our 4th and final party member. Pongorma doesn't have any of the skills that we've learned from TVs throughout the way, but he still has some really, really strong skills. Just like high damage dealing, you know, good stuff that we'll be able to use in this part of the run. So we're going to go up this tower here. We're going to use this water cooler, and we are going to clear the gear on Wayne, or clear the gear on Pongorma, put it on Wayne, give Wayne these power-ups, and then heal everybody with the Dudoplasms I got at the start of the run. And then we have another boss fight. This is Clawman. Clawman is pretty interesting. He can do a lot of damage turn 1, so I have to be careful. I'm going to use bubbles with Pongorma, which this is important, or with Somsnosa, rather. This is important to point out, because the max amount of damage Clawman can do in a single turn is 100. So by having Somsnosa, a character with over 100 health, use bubbles, it guarantees that it will go off and we will get the poison. And from that point, even if something goes wrong, it's still kind of likely that you'll win the fight there. As you saw, I had 2 characters die, but I still made it out alive. So now before we leave Clawman's tower, we're going to just grab all this money, because money is good. And we are going to gear up before fighting the final boss. So we're going to go back to the starting town here. And this is another slow point of the run where I'm just going to a specific shop that's really far out of the way. So I have to go all the way up here to this building, up and out of this building, and then into this shop where I can buy berry shields. And then the berry shields actually increase my max HP, so I want to make sure that I put them on before I get to a healing spot that's to my right. And that's so that when I heal, I actually, you know, go back to 100% health instead of being a bit under. But with that shopping trip done, we are now going to head to the spaceship, where outside the spaceship there is a hot dog vendor selling, obviously, hot dogs, but also the ship key. So we're going to buy the spaceship key from him, and then activate the spaceship. And I mentioned the villain of this game is the evil Moon Lord Gibby. Well, we have made it to the moon. Seems like a good place to find the Moon Lord. So yeah, the moon it's pretty, there's nothing happening, really. It is a really cool overworld and really cool music. Speaking of the music, it has been really weird throughout this whole run, but this is a great time to shout out Mason Lindroth, who did literally everything for this game. Obviously didn't, like, make RPG Maker, but did all, like, the art, and, yeah, quite literally everything. So, big shout-outs to Mason. The art, the music, any additional programming, the story, yeah, everything. Like, it's just him. So big shout-outs there. In this final enemy, or in this final dungeon, Gibby has a bunch of defense robots, but they kind of just self-destruct if you touch them, so we can run through them all. And just like that, we have made it to this room here, and when I go right up here, we're going to be at final boss against Gibby. I am going to drop a save here. This fight is usually pretty consistent, but there's a chance it could go wrong. So we are going to Bubbles Gibby and the tower on the right. And then we are going to set up Mystic Meat and damage Gibby with Partial Destruct, which is Pongorma's strongest move. Something about all the hot dogs that I bought is that they are actually full party heals. So that way we have enough hot dogs that we bought from the vendor that we can just kind of use them every turn. And unless something bad happens, we'll be fine. Now that Pongorma is out of will to use Partial Destruct, he's going to become like our hot dog boy for this part of the fight. We're going to re-up our Mystic Meat, our Element Shield. And at this point, the fight has gone pretty well. Pretty much the idea behind this fight is that we poison Gibby and the rightmost tower. And then we deal a lot of damage to the left tower to try and kill it, while the right tower... well, Gibby and the right tower both take a bunch of poison damage, and by the time the left tower dies, Gibby and the right tower are both pretty low to where we can just take them out. So, time is not when this cutscene starts, even though it is a cutscene after the boss. Once this cutscene is over, it's just a small cutscene of Wayne reflecting on his journey. We're going to get sent to the end screen where I can flip a lever, and time is when I lose control of the characters. So I'm going to stop flipping that. I'm going to flip this lever for like 5 seconds, and then when I stop, that's the end of the game. And that is Hylics. That was a pretty good run. I think I saved in front of every boss, but I never had to retry them. No, I had to retry Project. I don't remember. Point is, that's a really good showcase of the run. It's a really short but sweet run. The game is super cool on its own. So, and the run does kind of destroy it. We do a lot of things in a very weak state, but I think that always adds a lot of thrill. But resets in this game are really quick. I can press F12 and within like 3 seconds load a save. So it makes it so that even if things don't go, or even if things go wrong in this run, I can try the fights again really fast. And there's no fight that's like too unlucky to where it'll take like 20 tries. I believe Wayne's sleep move has a 70% chance of working on each enemy. So like even the hardest fight in this run is still like a 40% chance of going perfectly. And beyond that 40%, there's still a chance you can win, even if things go wrong. So it's a really consistent, really short but sweet run, and I hope whichever marathon sees this video considers it. Thank you so much for watching.